Back again. I got a question for you, and this might put a damper on how we view each other. But I want to know the craziest conspiracy theory that you believe.
Ah, well, Atlantis.
Atlantis?
Yeah.
I think it's the actual city of Atlantis somewhere.
Yeah. The craziest thing to me to think about is that the world stayed in stasis as far as technology goes for thousands of years up until the industrial period.
Yeah.
Like one day, civilization just woke up and went, "Let's build stuff." Like that is the craziest thing for
No
me
one
to
ever
try
intended
to
it until
believe.
that point.
Yeah. And basically, like with Atlantis, from the things that I've seen and the thing like read and watched videos of and things like that was there is some kind of like landmass, I guess you could call it, that has like rings, like all in this one large area. Like it's just there's no buildings or anything like that, but strangely enough, there are rings all around this just one large circle on this landmass, and nobody really can like explain too well like how it got there or why it's there. But there are some historians that believe that it was probably Atlantis, because it did have like at one point a large amount of water there, like there's some fossils, and, like crustaceans and things like that, like fish, stuff like that, and it so they think maybe like that's where it could have been started if it was a civilization. And if that's the case, when we think of Atlantis, we think of some underwater civilization that existed
Highly advanced.
Yeah, highly advanced for its time frame a long time ago. And the weirder thing about it is like it doesn't seem like it's tied together, but to try to explain it to the best of my ability, things like Egypt, like the architect that they were able to create, similar to like the Aztecs, the Egyptians and the Aztecs, and being across the world basically from each other, and then places like Stonehenge, which is even farther, and the way that they all line up. There's certain things I can't really explain it very well. I had to actually look up the video again and kind of watch through all the stuff and look at it again. But basically, the way that the stone like all of these extraordinary works of architecture are all seem to be have seem to have been created the same with the same tools and the same technique in mind. Like just for example, like some of the pyramids in Egypt have stone inside them that were crafted down perfectly and smoothly down to like a 90-degree angle rectangle. Like they're so well made and perfectly made that they are smooth to the touch. And this is
one of those things that would be hard to recreate.
Yeah, and
with like today's technologies.
Yeah, exactly. It would be a chore for them to make such specific and such finely made stone that is that smooth. Like the tools that they had back then that they know of couldn't have made these things. And there's even like architecture that I've heard of, like I think the Aztecs have, because I think at the time like earthquakes were pretty prevalent. Like they had a lot of earthquakes, and they built their homes. Their architecture are built with like loose brick. Basically, is the best way to explain it. It's in the shape somewhat of bricks, but it's not mortared the same way.
Just set on top
of each other. They're just set in a way that if an earthquake was to happen, the bricks will move and shift, but won't the building won't collapse.
Over,
yeah. So they basically like earthquake proof their homes, and that in itself, just understanding that to that degree is incredible. That's why like people say like aliens came down to help them create
figure
something.
out, give them the
But
knowledge.
at the same time, like, why does it have to be aliens? Like, if they all have the same technology, if they all have the same way of doing things, so they have this grand understanding of architecture to this point, like, why couldn't it have been Atlantis? Why couldn't it have been a couple underwater, civilizations that during some great flood,
Mm-hmm.
built their homes underwater and became advanced in doing so, taught these people who survived above land, above water, on land, taught them how to make certain things to make their lives easier, and then returned to their civilizations.
Yeah.
Ergo, disappearing.
See, mine kind of goes off that same topic. I believe that dwarfs and giants used to exist as their own race.
They did.
Because with like the whole, well, again, apparently believe in the same conspiracy theory. Because a lot of people say no, that's just a fantasy thing. But there's again all these structures and this architecture that's large hewn stones that just seem feasibly impossible for like a modern day society to just do with the tools that they had available at the time,
or to understand how those people moved.
And
those
I
stones
like to
in such
think
a
that
large way,
because they're dwarves. There's little people.
Yeah.
Still to this day, that's a thing, and there are people that are have gigantism that are 7 foot tall. They don't live very long. No problems, but they're there. They're prevalent.
Yeah.
They just don't show up very much, and they're still human bound. So I feel like maybe over centuries time with just intermingling, mixing genes,
Yeah.
human, most giants or dwarfs kind of died off, and they're just kind of intermingled with the human species.
That's not too far to actually think of as a conspiracy theory, because we know for a fact that we are Homo sapiens, and there were degrees of humans before us, and they all went extinct. And who's to say that like the thing that if you want to think about millions of years ago, they say that we kind of developed and came into being, but that could be true as far as Homo sapiens goes. Like we could have developed millions of years ago in the time of dinosaurs, or just before that, or just after rather. You talk about people who had encounters with saber tooths and mammoths and things like that, and they were around for a really long time, and that was a long time ago that they became extinct, right? Mm-hmm. So we know that Homo sapiens, or the version of us just before Homo sapien encountered, who's to say that during that time frame that dinosaurs were around, that there wasn't a larger group of our race around, like giants, things like that. Because the reason why dinosaurs were so big is because the amount of oxygen in the world back then was vastly superior than it is now, and that would mean that everything was so large then because they had the resources and the oxygen flow and other things to allow themselves to be that big, right? Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't be so far-fetched to think that at one point humans were also giant, because we were able to be that large because the oxygen flow allowed us to become that big. It allowed the resources that we had available allowed us to become that big. Because if everything back in that time was 10 times to 15 times bigger than what they are now, like birds, just being much larger then than they are now, who's to say that it wouldn't have the same effect on the human species?
Right, and that makes sense.
Then, whatever version of us was alive then. But then at the same time, you think about after whatever devastating thing happened that killed all the dinosaurs, that's a whole different conspiracy.
How did everything else?
How did it survive? They had to devolve and become smaller, so that they required less. And in that time frame, say a meteor did hit the Earth, that just kind of wiped out a large portion of our resources, and trees that lowered the oxygen level in the world and lowered the resources that we were able to eat. Then humans would have to have evolved and become smaller. And over that time, if it stayed that way for a large portion of time, say meteor hits, big impact creates problems within the Earth's core that makes volcanoes all over the world erupt for a large portion of time. And those ashes cover the skies and rain down, killing vegetation, stopping sunlight from getting through.
No sunlight coming
through. It could be hundreds of years
cold.
before the world becomes comes back to normal, And in that time frame, these giant humans start to get smaller and smaller until you have some that are evolved to the point, or devolved, whichever way you want to see it, down to the point that they are small because they require less, or they need to require less. Mm-hmm. So they evolve to be smaller, and they get to survive because they are smaller.
Start adapting to their surroundings.
Yes. And when the world comes back to like what we know it as now, which is not what it used to be, but better than it was, mm-hmm. then humans can then again begin to evolve from shorter beings back up to, our average height of 5'6" to 6'4", whatever, in that span, and that's what becomes the person before us, the Neanderthals. Yeah. And then after civilization starts to develop and things begin to grow, and people attune to the resources that they have again, they can continue evolving again. And then along comes the Homo sapiens, and along comes the need for the Homo sapiens, or what they believe is the need for the Homo sapiens in our brains, to get rid of what's like us, but isn't us. So then there then becomes the mass genocide of whatever might have survived up to that point, to the point that there is only
whatever we
Homo sapiens.
Threat,
yeah, because we are now the head of the food chain. And these dwarves or whatever, or these giants who don't live long, like they need to be eradicated by those time frame Homo sapiens mindsets.
We were just the ones
because
that
we
kind of
had
won
to
the
be
battle
at the top.
That part, yeah.
So it could, and now that whenever we have kids, like genetically down our bloodline, you have somebody who has giantism or somebody who has dwarfism, like they have those things because those are bloodlines still intact.
Yeah, they're still
those
DNA and those genes are still prevalent.
So it's not so far fetched to believe that at one point in our history, throughout millions of years, that we could have been giant, or we could have been, generally small.
Especially like looking back through history, kind of like you were talking about, like with Stonehenge, or just like them finding weapons and tools that were just abnormally large. That when scientists look back and they're like, I can't think of, they don't have a reason why they would have made something this large, other than a large person to use this, or it would just been you made it that big for
guy in most recent time that you can think of that had giants. He was a wrestler.
Andre the Giant?
Andre the Giant, yeah. He had giantism. He died at a young age because of it, or you could say that he died from liver failure. But at the same time, he could drink. Actually, he was known to be an alcoholic, and he could drink like fifths of whiskey and tequila and all that kind of stuff all in one day and act normal. His body wasn't affected by it because of how large he was. Yeah. And that's just one thing that he could do on top of his incredible strength that most humans can't do. And picking up a giant tool to swing around that somebody smaller than him can't do would be an advantage that he has. Like it just seems to me like it's really not that far fetched to believe, if you just think about it a little bit, that could be true. That we could have had different versions of ourselves.
Like the pyramids, the hewn stone, even at the very tops of the pyramid, they're just massively large cuts of stone that it'd probably take thousands and thousands of people to pull up there, but even then it's you're using ramps and rope, and it's still like that's a lot of slaves to go under.
Yeah. But there's also the more finer details that I've seen and heard about. Basically, the architecture of some of those buildings, some of the things that they created at those areas, like Egypt and the Aztec area and Stonehenge. Some of them have such precise, like almost drilling into stone, that you would need like tools as advanced as ours now, or more so, to make such an advanced drilling and the stone to fit everything together the way that it does. And Stonehenge itself, those we just see the heads, but there's actually and some of them 13 feet down is their body, that is drilled all the way down. Their actual body. So either they either the land mass was much smaller back then, and they just eventually got filled in with dirt, or maybe somebody filled them
whatever,
up in dirt and did that on purpose. Like pack them in up to their heads just for some kind of
reason.
Yeah, art.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been.
I know, and I want to say it's Japan, but there's a some kind of building, and it's been a while since I read this article, but apparently they discovered like a tunnel like, that led into a cave system that had been carved out that was like tens of like almost maybe even hundreds of feet tall. Mm-hmm. That like all along the wall was like carved out, very like finely crafted down to a slope, and just this large, like I said, cave area that just been mined out, and there all these architects and or archaeologists and scientists are like, yeah, it would. They don't know how it was done. Yeah, because it would be one of those things. Like even with today's technology and tools, that would be quite the chore. Yeah,
that's fair. And a lot of them can just try to attest it to like just manpower and time and the fact that people were forced to do this labor and not paid for it, that kind of thing. But slaves. But I mean, at the same time, like you could say that,
yeah. Why
or
are
you
they
could
doing
say
it that
like
well?
a small group of people with advanced technology could have done that easily.
Like for me thinking, if I was a slave back in that time, if I was one of the people that was a slave, they were being forced to build the pyramids or build these weird whatever structures, I probably wouldn't put that much fine detail or
Yeah, I mean just on top of that,
that much effort into my work other than making it, doing the bare minimum.
Yeah, just to think that the pharaohs of Egypt would put so much time into educating each and every slave that did the construction of the pyramids on how to properly construct it would even in itself be a huge deal. Like you're going to teach hundreds of slaves on how to accurately build a pyramid and how to cut stone and shave stone and form stone in such a way that you can fit them together like that and still have passages on the inside. Yeah. Like
and have them
that'd be a lot of time
to put constructed in a way that it fit perfectly with like I guess the
thing I could ask Cleopatra about.
Is it the astrology? The way the stars pass the sky.
Astrology.
Now the way that everything lines up with like each peak lines up with the sun at a certain point in the day, and this and that, blah blah. Just planning all that out seems
much more advanced.
Yeah, there would need to be something else, even if it wasn't aliens. I know a lot of people say aliens is the most.
So I always lean towards like Atlantis.
If it's one of those like if they had the technology back then, why don't we have it now? Well, it's because there's aliens they're not here anymore. But it was probably around. Someone knew physics because at the end of the day, that's all it is. And they just took the time to figure it out. How they did it, whatever
tools they created that were not for us to know about.
Haven't found them yet.
See, the thing that I always thought about was like, as far as Atlantis goes, maybe there was just multiple civilizations like Atlantis around the world, and they all had a way to communicate with each other, whether it be like sonar or whatever they would need to communicate back and forth long distances in that time period. If you're thinking advanced technology, literally just dial each other up,
satellite, radio waves, whatever.
Yeah, like some kind of sonar because, I mean, they definitely could have possibly had satellites. We wouldn't see them now; they've been long destroyed, whatever. Or some kind of sonar and how the communication that goes through like beeps, Morse code, yeah, doing like Morse code through sonar over long distances from shooting sonar from here through the water over to where they are because there's only so many of them that pick that up. So you would be able to communicate long distances. Nothing would interfere. Yada yada. But just thinking that like at some point the people of Atlantis decided we're going to break away from this place because the way that it's going, the things that are happening here are leading to disaster, aka the fall of Atlantis. They leave and go somewhere else, say on the other side of Easter Island or somewhere similar, like on the other side of South America,
wherever.
you
Yeah.
know, wherever, like Stonehenge or the Aztecs, that whatever, they move away from their original home and resettle. And then you have the people of Atlantis teaching people around them how to do things, hopefully, maybe hoping that they could trade with them to help their economy or whatever kind of struggles caused the fall of Atlantis, if it was real. It would be, them trying to save themselves and
Go back
inevitably
and
being
change a few things to maybe
destroyed
make
at
it
some
better the
point.
second time around.
Or like the wild conspiracy that I got from that in my own head was that these two civilizations split apart. Atlantis survived by teaching people how to use their technology and trading with them and taking their wealth and trade with people on the surface, and this other community maybe not wanting to do those things. That's why they split away.
Yeah.
And moved away from Atlantis and made their own civilization over here. But then once they realized that Atlantis was doing what they were doing, they thought, well, maybe we could do the same thing. Taught the people of Stonehenge or taught the Aztecs how to use theirs. Or Atlantis had a way of traveling so well that they could connect themselves to, or Pangea, could connect themselves to easily to everybody.
Yeah.
To be able to teach them. They had some way of travel that made it easier for them to get to place to place. And these other people who split away who don't want to got into some kind of war with Atlantis, because that's what our race does
happens, yeah.
is fight. That's what we do. And say that this unknown civilization doesn't have a name, and Atlantis get into their fight, and they, have it. And technology is so advanced. Say Pangea was a thing when they did this, and that's why all these places have such similar, technology, like such similar architecture.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Pangea is a thing. The Atlantis is over here. They're all fighting. Blah blah blah. And whatever war they have causes the split of the continent. Because they live so deeply underwater that their war causes the shifting of the tectonic plates that move Pangea away from each other, and then after some time, they kill each other out.
Yeah.
Because they're unwilling to, or they fought for so long that they abandoned their home after it was destroyed and went back to the surface.
And they're just kind of one of those societies that were oystered, and after a while, all civilizations die out, and if you don't spread out throughout the world or spread your techniques,
they die.
They all died out.
And that's kind of like the thought process that my brain goes through. Like that, maybe that's why Atlantis isn't around anymore. Maybe that's why it's been reduced to what they think is Atlantis, which is some rings on the ground. I can't even remember where it is. It's above ground now. It's above the water level now, so you can see them. And there's no ruins. It's literally just a maybe it's stone, just stone in the ground now. I can't remember for sure, but it's literally just a large landmass that just has these rings on it all the way down
I know,
into the center.
Like crop circles.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what the actual term for them, but sky pictures, like you'd have to be way up high to even see what they look like, but they were made millions of years ago just by people placing stones or making indentions in the ground over large areas, and then you get up high, you can actually see that makes a shape that resembles something.
Yeah. I mean, they could have used astrology probably to do that, watching the stars and knowing where they are. But the hard part about making a large mass of whatever on the ground like that using astrology is that the Earth rotates, and so does our star patterns in the sky. That's why we have.
You would just have to have someone back then, I guess, smart enough to sit down and be able to chisel or draw out something out of shape and be like, all right, we're gonna make this. We're just gonna make it really big, and just take the time to measure, convert measurements from a short distance. So, however many inches on this paper is drawn, we need to go a mile. We don't know what a mile is like, so we're just gonna take so many steps, and then we're gonna turn or whatever.
That's why I said that. Like, it's hard to believe that we stayed in stasis with our technology, and then suddenly during the industrial period made a large boom, and was like, okay, now we understand how things work, and started developing things that we have today. Like electricity and whatnot. Like, it doesn't make sense to me that we had millions of years on the planet to develop things that work better than what we have now, and it never
And
did.
then finally decide to go, all right, now we're going to use it.
Yeah, 1700s, 1800s, one day somebody just woke up and went like, "Hey, electricity,"
Mhm.
and then from there, industrial period just boomed, and people just started making all kinds of things.
Yeah.
It's like my problem is like I can walk you through how to put a new door in.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could do the door itself, but if you need to do like trim around the edges and stuff like that, I'm not the guy to ask because there's a lot of fractions involved in that, and cutting them down to get the right measurement. I'm not the person to ask about that. Because as soon as you go, how much do we have to cut off this? I'm just gonna go.
About that much.
About
I'll show
like
you.
like this much.
I'll put my hand up to it. Measure. Get me a stick or something. I'll cut it off, and that's about how much you need right there.
Yeah, exactly. So that is not.
And I've done it before. It works.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's not perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect. I think we're out of questions. I believe I'm out of questions.
Right. I'd have to think about what kind of question I would want to ask. Superpowers.
Superpowers.
Like what kind of superpower? If you could choose a superpower, what kind of superpower?
Oh man,
How many times can I say superpower?
We've had so many superpower talks before.
Right.
But
we'll just do it again for the people who listen.
If we're just sticking on one superpower, if I could make clones of myself. Like I'm talking like Naruto shadow clones, Jutsu style clones, where it's literally an exact copy of me.
Yeah.
But we never have that trope of like who's the better.
Yeah.
We're the same, so we're never gonna have to fight or vie for control of power with my clones.
I'm the original.
But you can get so much stuff done. Kind of like you were talking about going to Narnia and just living out life. I could live out many different lifestyles
all at one time
with clones,
and then just kind of like absorb them back in and learn the things that they learned. Yeah, that would be really.
Yeah, say I'm sitting at the house and I need to go grocery shopping. I don't really feel like getting out that day. Clone.
Groceries.
You go do the groceries. Yeah. Maybe that clone I make, I just leave the part where he's not feeling like doing anything that day. I don't know. I can control him. It's a superpower.
Yeah. You just leave out the fact
I think that would be my go-to superpower. Just clone myself.
That would be cool for sure.
That'd be the most handy without me, going
over the top.
Especially, going over the top and because I also have a fear of if I had a superpower in today's age, like I was able to teleport or fly or had super strength, super endurance. Eventually, someone's scooping me up and I'm getting tested on in a factory out in the middle of fucking nowhere.
That's fair. What I would do is probably time manipulation.
Yeah.
So time, freezing time, advancing time, time traveling, anything to do with time, reversing time.
Like ebb and flow, just control the ebb and flow of time.
Yeah. And then also with that manipulation of time, being able to save and reload my time.
Mm-hmm.
Say we're having this conversation right now.
So your superpower would just be the remote off click.
Kind
of. You could rewind or pause time or.
But see, he didn't have the ability to go back. That's why whatever, he could rewind a little, but as far as going back days, he couldn't do.
Fair enough. After major events.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Long.
So the ability that I would be taking would be just say if I had the ability to manipulate time, as I'm saying, my whole life, I could have made a save in my mind of say an event that happened while I was in high school. And then I could reload and live from that event back until now. So that I could change all of the things that I did up until now that I saw had negative effects on my life, change them, and make different choices as I go about things. Or it could not.
Similar topic question. If you could, physics aside, there's a lot of shit that can get
time travel is outside of physics.
Get weird with time freezing. But if you could stop time for a 10-minute interval every week, what would be something you would do in that time frame?
Honestly, it sounds kind of cheesy, but if I found a moment that was like happy,
Mhm.
I just freeze it for 10 minutes and be in it, and just kind of be there and just kind of
Take it
bask
in.
in it and then let it go.
Yeah.
Like basically like when Riley's like in a really good mood or really happy or something like that, big smile on her face, just kind of freeze that for 10 minutes and just let her. It doesn't bother her at all. You know, it's just like my time is moving still, but hers is frozen. Doesn't affect her in any way. But just kind of sit there and look at her being as happy as she is.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
I would probably use mine for just to get free moments.
10 minutes,
Yeah,
just free
10 minutes out of every, let's say once a week I can choose a day. For that day, I can pause time for 10 minutes and just kind of
go.
yeah, just
Let the stress out.
maybe have my my screaming time, my de-stress time.
Yeah.
Go and just maybe I go to, I don't know. I probably wouldn't, like I say, de-stress. I would get like rage room it up, but I would probably still go somewhere uninhabited. Like there might be days where I would like pause time just to slap the piss out of somebody, but I feel like physics aside, you slap them, and once you unfreeze time, in my head they wouldn't know they were slapped. They might have a slight little like brief instant of like feeling like something hit their face, or either their face is gone because at the speed I'm moving compared to their time physics. But I feel like they're just not gonna feel it. So
right,
maybe for my own personal gain of just getting that stress out, but I feel like I just go to a rage room or something, go to somewhere, and I can just fucking go all out, get all the anger out and shit like that, and just stress somehow.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, for me, de-stressing would be like, if I was feeling really stressed out, but then like a good moment happened, just freeze that moment, and then that in itself, just being able to be in that moment for 10 minutes would be a de-stressor for me. Like, okay, this is the thing I need to focus on. This is the good thing, right?
Yeah.
Like this is what I should be.
Do you think you would ever get to a point where you're like hoarding that time for a good moment?
Yeah.
So like you get one day out of the week, and you only get the 10 minutes. So you think you would after a while you'd be like, is this good enough? I need to pause, or am I gonna need this come Friday?
Oh no. And from that perspective, no. Like it would be any moment that I thought was happy and that I was happy in.
Mm-hmm. If you
Freeze
had
it in 10
the
minutes.
meter, just go ahead and click it right then and there.
Whenever, if I did see something later on in the week that made me equally or more happy, then
like, oh well, that'd be nice to enjoy this moment, but
I already enjoyed something that was to me just as well before, and then next time, hopefully I get something like this, to stop and enjoy. But if I had time manipulation, then that would be something I'd be able to do all the time, right? Like as soon as it happened, to be like, wink, just stop it and be like, okay,
let's rewind this tiny little moment and relive it one more time.
I think I would be a little selfish, honestly. Like for like extremely good moments that I'm very happy in, I'd probably rewind them hundreds of times. Like just to be like, okay, yeah, this is it doesn't affect them at all. They don't know that they're reliving it. It's purely for me. Thing. Yeah. So they just stopping and rewinding and redoing that thing. Maybe they have like deja vu if we really get into it. They think that they've done it before, but like
I would be okay with time travel, but the whole like butterfly effect, traveling back into time, if that wasn't part of it, if that whole theory just was debunked, I would totally all the time be traveling back into time just to
as long as the butterfly effect isn't negative, like everybody views
like it still ends up like it might branch off, but it still kind of weaves back into the same one timeline.
Everybody acts like butterfly effects have to be bad. But like, say like I go back in time to a certain point in my life where I made a bad decision that hurt somebody, and I changed that. Like that means that negative thing that I did and it never happened, and that butterfly effect should be positive. The fact that they didn't have to go through that pain that I caused, so it just right then and there, that it has to be a positive butterfly effect, right? Like if I go back, say I go back just from right here to like 5 years old, and then just experience my life again with the memories that I have now, I can make a much better life for myself with the knowledge that I have, and on top of that, be able to get into something that I enjoy more than
or know what you're
what I will enjoy when I get there. Because at that point, if I do it again, and like I'm 26 now, I go back to 5 years. By the time 5 years old, by the time I get back to like 18, I will have had that many extra years on top of what I've already experienced to try and figure out what I enjoy that I could go to college for and actually like doing. And instead of just jumping straight into college whenever I'm 18 years old and having my parents pay for it, I can just wait a year.
Out,
like I could move out at 18, find my own place, live on my own for a year off my own income, and then try to go to college. And then my assistance to go to college would be much better because I'm 19 years old, living on my own, probably making like $20,000.
Your parents have all that money to do with whatever else.
Yeah. So then they don't have to try and pay for my college, and most places, like most like assistance places, will normally pay for a good portion of your college because you're young, living on your own with a small income. So at that point, I could just take that year off. But at that point, like I would like to think that if I had that time to go back to 5 years old and relive my life and try and do the things that I wanted to, I would still have the wisdom I have now. Not saying that it's a large amount, but I would have the experience, right, that I have now at 5 years old. So I'm not 5 years old, I'm 26.
You still have the mindset.
But physically I'm 5, so that I can go throughout my entire like childhood, kind of like you get birthday money and stuff like that. Save it, hold it back, put it in the bank.
You think you would be able to still act your age?
No.
That might cause problems.
I would be able to like just kind of do whatever. I'm 5, right? Yeah. Like so I'd be able to move around, like do whatever, enjoy my life, play with whatever. Like get like an Atari at that point, and just play with the Atari all day long. If that's really what I wanted to do that day.
Be a child. Yeah.
Yeah. Just
I could
enjoy my youth. Yeah. Enjoy my youth again, doing whatever I want to, but then at the back of my mind, knowing that the choices that I make from here forward are much more serious than I thought the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
So like whenever everybody's like, "Hey, make sure that you do well in school because that's your future," but like you still get into college, C average. You can get into any college for something that you enjoy, or you already know that you don't want to go to college.
And that's why most community colleges get into no problem.
Yes. So you don't have to stress so hard over your grades unless you want to go to an extravagant school, with a full scholarship. Like if that was what your goal would be whenever you went back, then you could do that. You could study harder, do all those things over again, try and improve your life through education. I guess if you really thought that would be the route that you would want to do it. But I've always thought that if I went back to 5 years old, I could save my money and make extra money doing random things. Like I had an allowance every now and again back then. I think if I would have taken it more seriously, my parents would have kept paying me an allowance, but it was kind of like a come and go thing. Like my dad would pay me like $20 to do all the chores in the house.
I can remember when it was like grade school. I can't remember exactly the grade, but I know I wasn't even in like junior high yet.
Yeah.
But there was a kid I went to school with, and he was like really good about saving money. His mom and dad always like made him like save. He had like a bank account before anyone else migrated. It was one of those like we were still young enough that I was like, bank account, that's adult stuff.
Yeah.
And he had like several $100s and saved up from just birthday money and tooth fairy money or God knows allowance, whatever.
Whatever it was.
And I'm just like, I'm thinking back now of like
that's
responsibility and
the superpower that I have brought
up. Put a few bucks back or just save all that.
See the ability to like save and reload, like in a video game. Like say I go back in time to 5 years old, I go through my life and I'm saving my money, and then all of a sudden I make the decision like, oh, I'm gonna buy this real quick, and it's gonna cost me a couple $100, but I'm fine because I have all my birthday money. Say I'm like 10, I have 5 years worth of birthday money, 5 years worth of mowing yards or whatever kids can do to make some money on the side. And I buy something and I turn out like, I didn't really want that. Now that I think about it, just reload back to before I said I spent the money and not spend it because I know that I don't want it now, and then continue on going about the things that I was doing.
Fleeting desire.
Yeah, fleeting desire that I bought something. I'm like, well, I didn't really need that, So I go back and try again and go through. And what my goal would probably be is to buy like a standard computer. Like probably like $400 for one of those back then, maybe less.
Yeah.
But like just a computer of my own, and then after that to be able to buy something to put into it to kind of like upgrade it here and there, to where like I would say realistically, if I started at 5 and started saving my money for the money that I could have gotten from like birthdays and stuff like that, by the time I was 10, I probably could do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't be that big of a goal because I'm 10. Like I can't really get on the internet a whole lot. Especially with like dial-up and stuff being a dial-up, being a thing back then. It would have been a lot harder for me to use the internet back then, just with the way that it worked.
Yeah,
So it wouldn't be
long.
too big of a deal. But at the same time, like 5 years worth of saved money. Like I buy a computer, upgraded it over like a couple years worth of time. Like I'd have to upgrade a few different parts.
Take the time to figure out how stocks work.
Yeah,
because if you go back in time, you want to make money.
Exactly.
That's how you do it, right there.
Exactly. and see that was one of the things I'm getting at is I would buy this computer and then I could buy stocks from it, and I could start like a YouTube channel at a young age and understand how computers work enough to do that from a young age. Play video games like I like to do, but for fun, starting at like 12 years old or so, 10, 12, however long it takes for me to get that computer, and then start, using that to make money at 10 or 12.
All these people listening could have heard us that are prepubescent ages making boob jokes and milk lemonade.
Yeah. But like, and see that would have been a fun thing to do back in the day. And I've always had like that inkling, like, oh, I kind of want to do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That I have freedom to do the things that I want, and be able to speak about the things that I want. I do like philosophy too. I like talking about things and just kind of like talk about how things work or how I think things work, stuff like that. So like I could do this and then I could do like video game stuff and like upload those things as well. And hopefully, by from the time I'm like 10 to the time I'm 16, I have some kind of
like how the world in general works.
Yeah.
And going, okay, well, I know I probably need to focus on this or focus on that. But another thing, I don't know if you guys still remember what footsie is. Please let us know, because I am convinced fully that playing footsie is a millennial thing. It's no longer around. Gen Zs don't do it. That's weird.
Yeah.
They're not about to eat. But I guarantee.
Let's stop there. We're not about to eat either. But we
don't have to keep. We don't have a foot fetish. I will say that. But you don't get to judge us. I might have a foot fetish. I don't. I really don't. I have other fetishes.
Yeah.
But anyway, I am a firm believer that any older person listening to this talk right now, they know what footsie is.
Yeah.
But if I had to put an age number on it,
you can talk to like a 14-year-old.
I'm saying like 18. If you're 18 or younger, you don't know what footsie is. I'm calling it right now, and if I'm wrong, prove it.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, it does kind of seem like you're out and about doing stuff. It could be at a restaurant or whatever. You don't really see people like doing that.
Yeah, and like even like TV shows, like movies, like 80s, you would see them like the guy and girl go out on a date and they like take their shoes off underneath the table and they're like rubbing each other's legs and their feet and they're playing around with each other's feet. You don't hear, you don't see about it.
Yeah. It might just be that like we're not kids anymore, so that we don't play footsie, so we don't like know that it happens anymore. But it could. Maybe we just don't.
It's like that phase.
It's like Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Like once you become a kid, you can't go there anymore.
Why is it just footsie? Because like there's other, I guess, forms of foreplay that children still do that we still know about.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I guess
rubbing each other's feet together is a form of sexual activity.
That more so just depends on like the person that you're with. Because I mean, like if you were really playful at the beginning of your relationship, then footsie's probably something that you could still get away with. But I know that over a long period of over a period of being in a long-term relationship with somebody, a lot of things like playful like that just kind of stop happening. Mm-hmm. So like maybe it's just that we don't notice it anymore because we don't do it anymore.
But I'd say it's been pretty good talk this afternoon. So we can end it here. Yeah. So hopefully, if if you stuck with us this whole time, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hope you come back for more. Again, subscribe to the channel so you know when we put out more stuff. That's the way to do.
Turn on that bell icon. Leave a like. Maybe
the
comment and leave your thoughts and opinions on some of the things that we talked about.
Yeah, definitely let us know your thoughts on our topics. If we're talking about something you enjoy, let us know. If we're talking about something you don't like, if we're hitting trigger warning topics, let us know. Maybe we'll try to avoid them.
Or leave a message on the video that we're about to enter something that's triggering. So that they
Yeah, we can do
know.
that. I feel like we tried, but yeah.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
All right, it's been good. You guys take care.